Hello, my name is Nina. Welcome to my channel, Inside the Mind of a Human Predator. In this video, I'd like to address those who have left situations, whether from their family of origin or an intimate partnership with someone who exhibits the narcissistic, psychopathic, antisocial, relational style. So I would like to address the various methods that I personally have used to feel better, good, and great as your new baseline emotional state. So there are 3 steps to this. The first step is to elevate your emotional state from crappy, where you probably are, to better, good, great, and amazing as a regular pattern that you feel on a daily basis. Step number 2 is to separate your internal circumstances, your internal feelings, from external circumstances. So basically, you will feel good no matter what life throws at you. And as you can imagine, this is applicable far beyond leaving an abusive situations. You can use these techniques to deal with stressors at work, for instance. And step number 3 is about letting stress go through you very quickly should you experience a highly stressful situation. So as a stressful situation arises, you will have a normal human reaction with the release of stress hormones, but you will no longer dwell on the situation for hours, for days, maybe even weeks. So think of a little child who has this little screaming, crying moment, and 5 minutes later he or she feels perfectly happy. This is the goal that we're going for. So basically, maintaining a really good baseline emotional state, letting stress go through us very quickly, and separating the external from the internal. Disclaimer number 1, I'm not a psychologist, clinician, or therapist of any kind. I am sharing my personal experiences of methods that have worked for me over the last couple of years. Disclaimer number 2, if you had left a trauma-bonded situation, and this is very recent, it'll take you a little bit longer to use these methods because you were in a situation of what some have termed emotional swings. So anytime there was an abusive scenario, you experienced a great deal of stress, your stress hormones were activated, then there was a little bit of a lull, and then there was inevitably at some point the delivery of these so-called intermittent positive rewards. So you had the release of dopamine. So your body chemistry was basically in this mode and it was a little bit out of whack. So for you to go through the withdrawal that you would inevitably experience as you return to normalcy, it'll take a little bit of time, but you will reach that point. So the first 2 methods are about dealing with stress in that immediate moment. So method number 1 is breathe. Now the best technique for breathing and therefore calming your mind that has worked for me is called combat breathing. So this is very simple. You regularize your breath. Deep breath in. Think of the way that children breathe. Their stomachs expand. Once you have taken that breath in, you hold for 4 seconds. So you count to 4. Then you fully exhale. So you have to be fully empty, and then you count to 4 for the next 4 seconds. So you repeat this over and over again, and you can use a different number of seconds as long as it's the same number on the way in as it is on the way out until your mind returns to being more calm. Method number 2 is something that is used in various grounding techniques. If you are experiencing a highly stressful situation, then you can use mindfulness to return back to normal and bring yourself back to the present moment. And you do this by activating your 5 senses and identifying what you are using those senses for. So let's say you're outside, you identify the fact that you see buildings, trees, cars, people, that you're hearing the sound of cars, that perhaps you feel the texture of the gloves that you're wearing because it's cold, you have the taste of gum that you're chewing, on and on. So basically you're refocusing your mind away from that stressor and onto your present moment as a way to calm down. So, whereas the first two techniques are about addressing the immediately stressful situation, the next two techniques are more about maintenance and establishing a very good emotional baseline state, regardless of external circumstances. And here is where I have to give credit where credit is due. There are multiple sources for this type of information. In one source I really liked for some of these techniques, not all, is a channel called Illuminating Joy on YouTube. The focus of this channel is completely different from the subject that I'm describing, but these methods can be used in a variety of ways, and the channel's author does a really good job describing them. So, the next method, number 3, in terms of establishing a good emotional state, is basically focusing on what you like in your immediate surroundings. So you can begin with a list of 5 and do this once a day, and then you build up to a list of 10 and repeating this several times a day. What you're basically training your mind to do is to focus on positive things in your life, basically identifying those proverbial little joys in life. So let's say you're out on a dog walk in the park, you look at the beautiful blue sky, you identify either the freshly fallen autumn leaves or the new snow, the fact that you're enjoying your solitude, you're liking the music that's coming through your headphones, you're drinking a delicious hot coffee, etc., etc., etc. It's really not hard to identify something in your immediate environment that you like, and you might actually naturally feel yourself smiling as you're thinking of these things. You could literally have just moved to a different house, and your new house is pretty chaotic, but it's really cold and windy outside, so you could say, wow, it's cold and windy outside, it's so nice to be indoors where it's warm and cozy. So you repeat this every day, and I recommend doing this more than once a day and increasing the list, and it's pretty simple. So your mind gradually will begin to focus on things that are positive. Now the fourth step, the fourth method, which is kind of a counterpart to the one that I just mentioned, is a little bit more difficult. And it's especially difficult for those that have come out of abusive situations, because in those situations, it's very likely that you were denigrated about anything and everything. The way you look, the way you cook, the way you work, the way you don't work, etc., etc. And so the list here is about identifying the things that you like about yourself. So if it's difficult for you to identify those things, give yourself a break and go slow. You could say, I like the color of my shoes, I like the color of my nail polish, I like the fact that whenever friends ask for help, I actually am able to help them. And gradually you build up the list of 5 to the list of 10, and you can repeat this list several times a day. As your baseline emotional state is getting better and better every day with these exercises, you can become a little bit more bold and start identifying the things that you like about your appearance. I really like the way my hair looks today. I like the fact that I show up for work on time every time. I like the fact that I'm a good swimmer and a pretty good artist. On and on and on. So the important factor here, as in the previous method, is to refocus your mind and to train it to pay attention to the positives in your life. So by using the first 2 steps, the first 2 methods, the dealing with the immediate stressors, and the last 2 methods of maintaining a good baseline state, you should really be able to get yourself to a pretty impressive emotional state over a few days, a few weeks, a few months, depending on your particular circumstances. Now, my last method is a little bit unorthodox, and various people refer to this method by using very different terminology. Some say it's simply placebo, there's nothing to it. Others call it meditation or self-hypnosis. Others yet use quantum physics to explain how this actually works. and others yet refer to it as manifesting. Personally, it doesn't matter to me what terminology we use and how it works exactly. I know that it works because it has worked for me, and I've done this exercise on a number of occasions. So basically, you imagine yourself in a comfortable place and with a person with whom you feel comfortable. Friend, family member. If you've been isolated in a trauma-bonded relationship, then imagine yourself with a public figure, historic figure, someone from a book that you like. It doesn't matter who this is, as long as you feel comfortable with this person and you are in a comfortable place. Then imagine yourself having a brief conversation where you say, from the first person perspective, that you feel happy every day. So you'll say, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that I'm non-reactive and that I'm so resilient. So you basically tailor that particular conversation to the types of things that you want to feel on a daily basis. And the person with whom you are conversing in your imaginary conversation will validate you and will say, yes, you are so happy. You're so resilient. Stress goes through you so quickly. On and on. So this conversation and this scene will be very brief, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. And it's important to imagine yourself from the first person perspective. So you're not watching yourself on an imaginary movie screen as if it's an actor that you're seeing. You are watching the scene from your own two eyes. So the way that I imagine scenes like this, when I close my eyes, I look at my hands, I pick up my cell phone, and I look down at my feet in order to establish the proper perspective of observing from my own two eyes in my mind. And then you populate the scene and you animate it. So basically you use the previously mentioned grounding mindfulness technique of using all 5 senses to identify things in your environment. So let's say you're sitting in a coffee shop, so you pay attention to the decor, you look at the way the person with whom you're speaking is dressed, the colors, the textures. You look at the way that you are dressed. You listen to the sounds of people chattering away in the coffee shop. You listen to the cups that are being put down. You smell your delicious fancy frappuccino or whatever it is you drink. You feel the heat from this freshly made coffee, so on and so forth. So you fully animate the scene as if it's a movie that's taking place inside your mind. And once you do that, you repeat the scene over and over again. It's very brief, 10-15 seconds inside your mind. And the best time to do this is when you are in a naturally meditative state right before going to sleep. You are relaxed. There's not a lot of outside distractions. All your devices are turned off. And usually what happens is your mind is impressed with this information, and it's almost like you, for the lack of a better term, rewire your brain. So in my case, I have done exercises like this. I apologize for my dog who's just jumped on the couch without my permission. Coming back here, I've done scenes like that a number of times, and with this particular message to myself that I am non-reactive, it usually works fairly quickly this next day, a couple of days. And the changes are pretty radical. And I've had situations where pretty significant stresses had arisen, and I was able to be non-reactive. And basically, whatever happens to your brain when you do these sorts of exercises, it works. So hopefully you find some or all of these methods useful. I would love to hear your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.